There you go. You're good to go.
Great. Okay, so my name's Julia Wise, and I work at Los Alamos National Laboratory. And I actually just wanted to let you guys know about a couple of programs that we have designed to assist New Mexico businesses. The first is our Technology Readiness Gross Receipts program. And so this Technology Readiness Initiative is a 3-year pilot that helps New Mexico companies who have an existing license from laboratory technology or an existing CRADA further mature that technology. And so through this program, a New Mexico business is able to access up to $150,000 a year to work with a national laboratory researcher. And this program is really great because it's also a partnership between Los Alamos National Laboratory and Sandia National Laboratory. We have emphasis in advanced and intelligent manufacturing, of course, biosciences and biotech, renewable energy, sustainable agriculture and water, space and defense technology, cybersecurity, and networking. So if you have a business in New Mexico that's registered to do business in New Mexico and you've licensed a technology from a national laboratory in New Mexico, so Sandia or Los Alamos, and you are participating in a CRADA, we can help you. There's additional funding essentially in the form of technical assistance available to help you mature that technology. Judy's also a project manager for Sandia on this program. So at the end of the spiel, we'll both drop our emails into the chat box, and please reach out to us if you have any questions. Our next program that we are launching out of Los Alamos Laboratory is the New Mexico Laboratory Embedded Entrepreneurial Program. And so if you are an entrepreneur who is looking to jumpstart your venture, you can receive a 2-year fellowship. This fellowship includes up to $100,000 in a salary, a travel stipend, as well as a CRADA with Los Alamos Lab, again, for development of your technology. And that's up to $100,000. And we hope to help you develop a scalable and commercial product. We're currently accepting applications, and the application does close May 21st. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And you can check out the website at www.newmexicoleep.com. Finally, I just want to put out a plug for a wonderful program for New Mexico small businesses. And so the New Mexico Small Business Assistance Program, as you can see, it provides New Mexico businesses facing technical challenges access in the form of technical assistance and access to the capabilities of Los Alamos and Sandia National Laboratories. We also subcontract with UNM, New Mexico Tech, New Mexico State University, and the New Mexico Manufacturing Extension Partnership. So at no cost to your business, and this is true for the Trigger program as well, a small business can seek assistance from laboratory scientists to help you solve the technical challenges you're facing. We've got 3 types of projects. So individual projects where one business can receive assistance, leverage projects where multiple businesses, we can assist you and your whole supply chain, can receive technical assistance for a larger project, or contract projects. And this allows our New Mexico businesses to access the manufacturing expertise and the business analytical expertise present at our universities. It also, some businesses have also used it to get access to NMSU's food science lab. And so if you are a small business per SBA guidelines who files gross receipts taxes in the state of New Mexico, you're eligible for this non-competitive assistance, first come, first serve. We accept requests for assistance at any time at NMSBA program.org. And if you're located in a rural county, so any county except Bernalillo and Santa Fe, you're eligible for up to $40,000 of technical assistance and $20,000 of technical assistance in an urban county. So we've got a suite of programs here that we would love to work with you on. So please, if you are interested in learning more, particularly for NMSBA, you may think, what the heck would a lab scientist do? Just reach out and we would be happy to talk through the challenges you're facing and try to figure out a solution. All right. I'm going to stop sharing the screen and pass it back to Rich. But in the meantime, I'll put my email into the chat box to everyone, and I'm sure Judy will do the same, and we can keep moving down the list. And so the next person I see is Rita, but Judy, I'll let you drive.
Hey, Julia, do me a favor and just pass it back to me. So click on my name and just put me back as the host.
Yeah, it's doing that right now.
Awesome.
Here, did it work?
Yeah, good to go.
Okay, sorry, things were just a little slow.
Drew just gave me a call. He's running behind, or he's jumping around. Oh no, Drew's here. There he is. All right.
All right, we're back in business.
I'm going to make you host, my friend. I guess I didn't set it up correctly, but I will publish your poll here in just a minute as well. Okay.
Okay. Hi, everybody. No fun to have an event that you sign up for, and the guest speaker isn't even there. So I'm glad everyone got to do introductions.
Thanks for your patience, Drew. Appreciate you. Greg is on as well. Greg, do you want to introduce Drew?
Yeah, we'll start, and basically, as most of you know, Drew is the former CEO of Meow Wolf. He's been involved with many startups and is really revitalizing the New Mexico Angels. So I will keep it short, and we'll go with a long presentation and hopefully open it up to some good Q&A. Thanks again.
Great. Should I get going, or do you guys want to do any other announcements?
Nope, you're good to go.
Okay, great. Well, there's some great people on this call. I see some names I know, some I don't. And so definitely my style is much more about conversation than about me being on some sort of stage. So I had asked our great hosts at NMBio just a couple of poll questions, just to get a sense of who people are, because my take is this is your time. And I want to make sure that we're giving topics and content and expertise that's going to help you. So I'm Drew Tulchin, the new president of what we're calling the new New Mexico Angels. What I had in mind is to give you a little bit of kind of the, what are the Angels up to? And then I also wanted to share kind of a case study, if you will, of what some of our deals are looking like, so people get a sense of what venture is looking like these days in COVID in 2021. And then the other thing that I thought would be fun is, instead of just kind of my talking about some of the trends that I'm seeing in capitalization, is that maybe we could workshop either a specific deal if someone's got one, or I could share some of the companies that are raising now, and we can show all of the capital flows that are coming in. So that was the logic. Do I want to check in with our hosts? Is there any specific question that the group has before we get started, so I'm directing my ideas a little bit, or should I just Zoom for it?
I'd start with the Zoom.
Okay, great.
You're good.
Okay, and then do we have the poll results yet, or will those be forthcoming as we go along?
Man, I am failing today badly, Drew.
No, dude, I distracted you, man. You need to help me.
I can't publish the poll. So, gosh darn it, it's just, I'm failing today.
No, don't put it that way, dude. I put you in a bad spot by my bad logistics. Do you have the info that you can cut and paste it in the paste in the chat, or should we just go without it?
I'd say go at it. I'll put it in the chat. I love your idea. It just won't be anonymous is the issue.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll let you struggle with that. I think.
Let's do it crazy, Drew. Do me a favor. Make me host again. I can publish the poll, and then I'll drop you back as being host.
Okay. Did I do that correctly?
Believe you did.
Okay, great. So while we're waiting for the poll, what people can check out is nmangels.com if you're multitaskers like me, to be honest. So check out what we're doing at newmexicoangels.com. Check out events and see the upcoming activities. And then also, if you go to the website, our newsletters are now posted there, thanks to our friends at Sunny 505, which is one of our sponsors. And so you can always get our latest news. If for some reason you're not getting our newsletter and you'd like to, Greg and others at NMBio are masters at the communications and the marketing, and so I'm learning from them. But if you ever need stuff, you can get there, or you can also sign up for our newsletter. And the reason why I bring that up is because we've started to have weekly events We went from being an organization under COVID that was trying to figure out how to connect with people. And then we historically have been kind of a quarterly party event. You know, many people here have joined us for dinner in Albuquerque, and then with a lot of people who have contributed a lot. And I really like what NMBio has done. I want to see more be more. And I want to see us all be able to do our part to really kind of change the narrative that New Mexico is a state that's lagging, because I don't believe that's true. And I think the data is showing that it's actually not. If you haven't seen the Angels in a while, you know, our mission is to provide returns, but also work with early stage startup and growth companies in New Mexico and throughout the Southwest. What we've been focusing on is New Mexican-based companies, companies started by New Mexicans, or companies that are really going to help New Mexico. We have done other companies as well, and we will, but certainly right now there's plenty of great talent, and there's enough to do with that focus. So if you have a company that needs some support, if they're outside of those parameters, we'll be happy to do what we can. But I think all of us are committed to those things as a starting point. Innovation. So what's been different? Something that's very different is the board, before I joined at the end of last year, signed a really great partnership with an entity called Rockies Venture Club. And this is one of the top 5 national leading angel groups in the nation in terms of size. They have more than 200 angel members. And we get access to deals. We can give them access to our deals, and we can get training and some of their infrastructure. So it's a great way to fight above our weight and to be able to grow a smaller organization so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And then in addition, we've started a bunch of programming in addition to some collaborations. So what's new for programming? We have office hours monthly, and all of these are available at nmangels.com under events. Office hours are in partnership with ABQID, which is Activate NM, because again, there's no need for everyone to have their own special silo. We'd really like to break down the silos and have more of a collaborative matrix approach. So monthly for 2 hours, you don't have to sign up ahead of time, although you can. If you want to just kind of come to the clubhouse, if you know a business that needs some assistance, if you know an investor who would like to learn more, this is kind of the place to get connected. Every month we have a Tutor Tuesday, which is a training. Yesterday we just had David King talk about valuations, or what's called discounted cash flow, or DCF. He did a very good job taking what's sometimes seen as the dark arts and making it a very approachable thing. And we had a bunch of new entrepreneurs who know that they need to think about valuation, and so it gave them the vernacular to do so. We have something called Investor Opportunities. The next one is actually, sorry about the date there, it's actually tonight at 4, where we have the monthly. And the Investor Opportunities is a place for companies to present. We get away from the language of pitching, because I know that, I don't know how you'd feel, but do you want a door-to-door salesperson to come by your door and take your time? Most people don't want to be pitched at, they would rather be spoken with or talked to. And so the idea of investment opportunities is more of a presentation and a dialogue. And then New Mexico Investors Roundtable is a quarterly event, also with Activate NMM. The next one, we have partnered with LANL to take some of their postdocs, some of their innovators, and some of the companies using their licensing. And instead of them pitching like Shark Tank, it's kind of the opposite. It's like the village envelops them, and we have a bunch of mentors and experts who come together and help problem solve. So I know there's some people on this group that have joined previous investor roundtables. If you have something that you'd like to join us for the LANL one, it's Friday, June 4th, and we would welcome you signing up on the website. More events of both Rockies Venture Club and us are on the site. Let me take a pause there. Rick and Greg, is there anything in the chat, or do y'all have a question that maybe I glossed over, where you asking a question might help other folks with clarity?
No, there's nothing in the chat right now, Drew. But going over that previous slide kind of piqued my interest in the sense of, is that a good place for someone who's seeking capital to realize there's alignment within the portfolio of investors that are at those meetings? In other words, is this the first place to kind of see, is there synergy between me and what I'm looking and what others are looking for?
Yeah, great question, Rick. So if I'm an entrepreneur, how do I connect to the angels? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, or more so, like, would my product fit in the Angels portfolio? Is this something they would appeal to them, or is it no, the Angels isn't interested in that. We're gonna, you know what I mean? Like, is it an easy way to find alignment early before presenting or getting deep into a dialogue?
Yeah, I love that question. Let me try to do a screen share. So I'm going to stop here and see if I can do this successfully. Give me 1 second. If people want to follow along at home, I'm going to newmexicoangels.com and I'm going to go to our portfolio. And the reason to share that is for people to get a sense of who have we invested in, right? That feels like the best way to answer Rick's question. So let me share that here. Screen share. Let me go to the right page. There we go. Okay. So these are the entrepreneur members of New Mexico Angels that are raising currently. We have 9, and we actually might have more. But these are all members of New Mexico Angels as entrepreneurs, and they're all raising. And Build with Robots, I mentioned, Parting Stone, Electric Playhouse. And then this is our historical portfolio, right? These are names that many of you know very, very well. In fact, some of you have probably worked with much more than I have. Banyan Infrastructure, AppJet, Advit Solar, Aqua Access. These are companies that are doing great things. John Ealing with Jeeper, Meow Wolf that I was a part of, which is how I got to know the Angels in the first place. So these are the types of companies that Angels have helped in the past, which is why we feel we're a good partner and appreciative of NMBio, right? Because there is some of the expertise to be able to look at some of the technology affiliated with members of your organization. And then in addition, there's also a wider range of things. You know, I think Meow Wolf as an example, Taos Bakes as a company that we just funded, Gaining Me Games, or maybe a little different. So what we ideally do is a company will come to us, and what you can do is go to entrepreneurs and the investment criteria. And we lay out, what we try to do is we try to help particularly our newer folks with demystifying this world, right? I'm doing this every day, so I like to think I've gotten pretty good at figuring out how do you do capital investment and what that looks like and kind of what the rules of the road are. But if someone's new at this and they're hustling as an entrepreneur, or they're an engineer, or they're a scientist, why should they be good at this? If they are, that's great. It's going to help them advance and succeed. But I think what I see our New Mexico responsibility is if an entrepreneur is stepping forward and he, she, they have some real chops to make a company, then the rest of us' responsibility is to do the things that we're good at so that their job is as easy as possible. And the amount of time that they have to spend on these things that they don't know is as painless as possible, right? So for example, the New Mexico Finance Authority, I think, is a fantastic organization in the state, and they are doing a lot in COVID times. And they have fantastic loan products, even for early companies. So they have a health-based product for medical companies. It helps if you have a track record and if you have revenues already, but they're an understanding lender. And now they have also a COVID assistance program. Their main loan product is only up to $150,000, but the interest rate is 1.625% interest, right? I mean, that's the state money. This is our tax money or our oil and gas money that's being used to help our businesses. So it's our responsibility on this call to help intermediate and help make it easy for that entrepreneur so that the entrepreneur can do what they're good at. So what we've tried to do on the website, and I think we still need to improve, is we have kind of the rules of the game. So any company that you find that is looking to grow, that needs some capital solutions, they can come to our website, they can apply to us, and what we're doing is we're putting them in a queue, and we're gonna match them with an angel mentor and do an assessment. So they're gonna do kind of a quick checklist, right? Like if you take your car in, there's the 30-point safety inspection. So we're gonna do that on a New Mexico company. And then that mentor is gonna feed back to that entrepreneur the information so that the entrepreneur is actually getting something. And if they're not quite ready for investment prime time, then they can learn a couple things or they can get referred to another entity that can help them on the journey best. So that's what we're focusing on, to be able to really help everybody and to be in service. And to do that, to be able to afford doing that, we've got some great sponsors that have supported this organization. And they're underwriting staff time, organizing time, to be able to allow us to engage with the business community, and not just if they're check ready, but help them on their journey and help them on their path, help them with their deck, their presentation, help them with their presentation skills, help them understand who's on the other side of the table. And if they're not ready for the investment from an angel or from an equity or from a venture place, where else they can go. So Rick, let me give a pause there and allow you to ask a question either that somebody has raised, or if you've got another question to ask of me, and then I can switch back to the deck after that.
Drew, this is Greg. I've got a question for you. We recently had WeFunder give a presentation to our audience, and there's a notable change from the companies they're going after. They're going after tech, bioscience now, not so much the craft breweries.
Right.
And I'm wondering if you're on a similar path in terms of the types of companies that you're talking to. And the second part is, would you ever try to combine an initiative between a venture capital firm and hook your company up with crowdfunding at the same time?
Yeah, thanks for that, Greg. So I like WeFunder. It's who we partnered with at Meow Wolf when we did our equity crowdfunding raise, which at the time was the fastest equity crowdfunding raise that had been recorded. In 36 hours, we raised $1.3 million. And we actually had to wake up the techie Sunday morning to shut down the site because legally we had capped it, and people were still signing up, and we had to just cap it off. So this was a really amazing opportunity, and we were using crowdfunding. And Greg, everything you're saying is correct. The new rules are helpful. Those are the rules that should have happened at the beginning, but I think we kind of had to get into this. The SEC, which grew out of the roaring 20s and then the dive of the 1930s in the stock market, right, is still feeling that it needs to protect American investors in a paternalistic fashion. And crowdfunding is a threat to that idea. It's also democratization. It's also kind of the barn raising, the veritable barn raising. And I think that crowdfunding is really super. There are two factors that I believe are challenges with the new crowdfunding. Number one is you still need a constituency. You basically need to run a PR campaign 24 hours a day to make it work. And so some companies that either don't have their own constituency, don't have their own relationships, maybe aren't very product-based, so they're not kind of a good story for the crowd. I think crowdfunding is a little harder for them. So that's number one. Number two is, I would say that the traditional venture community, both the venture capitalists and the entities that support them, the lawyers, the CPAs, the CFOs, those folks, they're not used to this tool, right? So I have a new tool in gardening. Let's make it up. It's called a Zifferwaffer. I've never used a Zifferwaffer before. I would probably like to stick with my shovel because I know how to use a shovel. I know what a shovel's for. I know what it takes before it breaks, and I know how much it costs. This other thing, the Zifferwaffer, might be really cool looking, and people might be really talking about it, but I don't know how to use it. What if I use it badly? What if I hurt myself? What if it breaks? What if it's not what it says it is? So that's what we're finding with crowdfunding, is that the venture track people feel that the crowdfunding isn't necessarily good for that track. And I'm ambivalent about that. I think you can add the language to the legal docs that protect it. But I do get from my Meow Wolf experience when we did this, that having 600 people on a cap table is the opposite of what most venture people want. And so that tension, even though it's been improved with the new rules, because now you can have one line item with an SPV, a special purpose vehicle. And so you can have the whole crowd kind of aggregated or coagulated. So Greg, did that answer the question of what you're thinking about, or is there more that you're thinking about from last time?
No, I think that's fine. One of the questions I have is, I know WeFunder, for example, I guess takes 6%. In terms of the venture capitalists, they're probably more focused on long-term, but what is basically the take that they are looking for, the people that are putting money into these companies?
Very good question. So my experience with crowdfunding is that it's 6 to 9%. So I think 6% is actually a good deal. And then in addition, there are some fees, right? You usually have to make a video, you have to pay some legal fees. So there's a cost to this, there's no question to it. But on the other hand, those of us who've done capital raises, if you take our time, if you take, if we're having somebody else raise for us, let's make up some numbers, 3 to 5%. So if we're at 5% versus say 6 or 7%, I think we end up, that gap ends up being smaller. And then the second part of your question, Greg, about, who is this good for? Am I getting that right? Is that what you intended to ask? Mm-hmm. So who is this good for? I think in most cases, again, we've got who's raising money now. Everyday Contacts, Lawrence Chavez, who I think was might have showed up at your last event. He's got a crowdfunding campaign and a capital raise. I just talked to a man named David Weir, who's got a CBD company called First Crop. It's a hemp and a CBD company here in New Mexico. And they've had both a capital raise, and then they kind of ran out of their Rolodex on the raise. And so what they did is they added a microventures crowdfunding to their raise. They just took the same docs and just extended it out because they had people who were willing to write checks in the thousands instead of the tens or hundreds of thousands. And then they also had customers, they had partners, and then they had kind of the media traction. And my understanding from Dave, I just talked to him yesterday, they're already up to 120,000 this month, which is capital they probably wouldn't have gotten anyway. And that they're hoping to do in the hundreds of thousands. And I think that that's a good model. I think, I think you should look at your list, your friends, and you should literally think of all of your friends, everyone who might be part of your church, your child's Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, who you went to college with. It's really an exercise in the web, the relationship web, and how much money can you ask of people, and are you confident about basically representing your own identity, which is a painful, hard thing to do. So my hat's off to everyone who is doing that. Was there a follow-up, Greg, to that one?
I'm going to let others jump in.
Okay, fantastic. Let's see if, can I ask someone to be a nice extrovert and ask a question so that we're getting some dialogue here?
Hi, Drew. It's Kathy Foster at the Ascend Hub, and we're affiliated with the University of New Mexico. Could you talk a little bit, because we're dealing with either academic innovators or early stage startups, but when we're talking about fundraising there, it really takes into consideration, a lot of research, clinical trials, everything over, and I saw that neurogenesis is in your portfolio there. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience for a biomedical company?
Yeah, it's a great question, Kathy, and I want to salute you and Dr. Prosnitz, who is an award winner. So I know both of you are working really, really hard. And I also know that I wonder if doing entrepreneurship in the university is a little bit like Ginger Rogers. She has to do the dance, but backwards and in heels, right? And so really appreciate you.
I don't look very good in heels. Sorry, Drew.
Oh, come on.
Good try,
Dr. Prosnitz. So Kathy, I think your question's a really good one. And I think that it's also very pertinent to our NMBio community, right? The trajectory of a biomedical startup traditionally looks very different than, say, a Patrick Soda. And let's go to the very extreme of that. Let's call it a moonshot, right? And so let's think about who's won a moonshot lately. I'm pleased to say that I think Avisa Pharma, who is, I believe they rebranded, but they were in our portfolio. You know, they've done amazing stuff, right? And they were able to buy into another company that was already traded and was able to get an exit that way. But those folks worked very, very hard for many years, and they already had an A+ team. So someone who's just starting out, who's got a moonshot, let's think about an Elon Musk, right? So how did Elon Musk, way back when maybe not many of us knew of his name, how was he successful? Well, his CV is impressive. He's got the A+ schools. He's got access, and he knew rich people. He's got a heck of a personality, and isn't afraid to self-publicize or even self-aggrandize. He works like heck, right? I mean, I think the stories about him was that he was sleeping in the office for months on end, and that anyone who wasn't kind of there with him, he would chastise. So I'm not sure I want to go to a dinner party with him, but you got to respect the amount of time and effort that he put into making his dreams reality. And those are elements which feel, I don't think disadvantaged to New Mexico, but I don't think we identify as having all of those parts. And so the things that we can do are those, a lot of us on the call, is I think we need to find the public capital, SBIR, and the work that AIF is doing, Arrowhead Innovation Fund, and others to help our companies understand how to do an SBIR. I think that's really powerful. And there's no reason why any good ideaed company, scientist, engineer, shouldn't be able to get in the track and kind of play those cards as quickly and as solidly as possible. So I think we should be maximizing SBIR. I think we should be maxing our NMSBA MEP program, which is a great partnership with UNM, AFRL, Sandia, Lanel, and I apologize if I'm missing any other partner. I think in the past that one has tapped out, but to having that continue to tap out. I think the state's effort with the angel tax credit, where you can get, if I'm an angel and I'm writing a check, I can get 25% back immediately off my New Mexico state taxes. It's not a perfect law. It does run out, but it's good, and it's one of our nation leading examples. So if I'm a check writer and I know I can get 25% off, so I'm already closing the gap on my loss, you're mitigating my risk. So that's a really good factor. And then I think the one other thing that I would suggest to our moonshot folks is to build up their advisors and to have their advisors be part of their business plan. So start with a kitchen cabinet. If the biggest name you can get is your stepfather or someone you went to college with or a fellow classmate, start with the best folks you got. But just be honest with them. Say, hey, look, folks, you're my starter bench. As soon as we recruit the #1 draft pick next year, either you can retire and go off to the sunset and sing victory, or the other side of that is I'm going to replace you, right? But for an entrepreneur to do it by themselves, Kathy, I think this is probably the biggest thing I've seen in New Mexico, is our solopreneurs who are trying to fight like heck to just make it happen. Yeah, it's really hard. Elon Musk did not do this by himself, and none of our entrepreneurs should. So let me pause there, Kathy, and see if you want a follow-up question, or if someone else wants to riff off of that one.
I would love to ask a follow-up if I may. So I really appreciate what you're saying about build, your advisors, and what we find sometimes, at least in the region we're working with, building a mentor network is difficult. Do you have any suggestions or pointers on how to start to kind of build a grassroots?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Kathy. I know your region extends to, say, Wyoming, right? And we want to get outside of just the urban core of New Mexico. And particularly what COVID has taught us is it's great to have entrepreneurs in these remote communities and using internet and being able to have the head in one place and kind of the body in other places. So I really support that. So how do you build your advisor network? Again, looking at Elon Musk, you got to be willing to ask. You got to be willing to talk about yourself, or the entrepreneur needs to be able to talk about him, her, or themselves. And then you've got to be able to approach somebody on an individual basis and have an individual relationship. There's a bunch of times that I've heard entrepreneurs said, well, I sent out an email and I didn't hear back. I'm like, well, I care and I get 150 emails a day. So if I didn't respond to you and I care, you probably need to do something else. So just sending an email isn't enough. We need to have phone calls. We need to have social media. We need to have coffees. So then the solopreneur says, well, I don't have time. I'm a scientist. I'm on the bench. I'm making this thing. And that's true. But the part about being CEO is you got to build all the pieces of the puzzle. And if that's not who you are, who the entrepreneur, who the innovator is, which totally makes sense, then the first thing you need to do is start building the team, and you need to date for the other people who are part of this experience. And you need to give them something, and you need to ask something of them. So Kathy, is that too simplistic? Should I go further, or how does that sound?
I think that's great. And I think this could be a webinar all by itself. So I will pause and let the other audience members ask questions. But thank you, Drew. Really great information.
Yeah, I really like that idea. Let's do that on how do you build your advisory circle? Because I think it's a really important one for New Mexico, and I think it's a really important one for our stereotypical introverted scientist, right? Cool.
Hey, Drew.
Yeah.
Drew, this is Eric. And so I'll just make things even more complicated for you, right? Which is, especially in the biomedical space, maybe a little less so on main campus, i.e. engineering. The lead inventor cannot have a role in the company, a fiduciary role. Can't be chief scientific officer, can't be CEO, can't be any of these things, unless, like one person has done at the HSC, actually reduce their effort at the university, right? So that's a huge risk and commitment, saying I'm going to go down to 40% time at the university with a commensurate pay decrease to start my company. So it's not something we can sort of just do extra on the side and say, yeah, I'm, in addition to my full-time UNM employment, for example, I'm going to be CEO or CSO of the company that spins Biotechnology. So it's even harder, right? Yeah. So first of all, thank you for putting that question. I think that's a very real problem. And I think the university, I think Sandia, Lanel, I know I've had really deep conversations with both Sandia and Lanel about this, and there's probably other institutions. So I think let me start with 2 and maybe 3 ideas. So the first one is the unhelpful answer, which is, your institutions need to get their act together, and your institutions are the ones that are in the way of their employees innovating. And so what I've experienced, and I don't think I'm talking out of school with Lanel because I've chatted with him about this, is like Lanel says it wants one thing, but its behavior is another, because its rules are challenging and the staff people haven't aligned themselves to what they say their goal is. And they're working on it. They're trying to get better. And I think that there's been a delta, there's been an improvement. So the first thing is these institutions need to create the mechanisms that if they really want to see this happen, they need to make it possible for their innovators. So that's number 1. And that's not very helpful because that's outside of entrepreneurship. Number 2 is let's look at the business model. And my hypothesis, which needs to be tested, is that sometimes the person with the innovation isn't the one who should run a company, right? I think a Bill Gates was an anomaly. He was the brilliant mind. He had the science behind him, and Paul Allen. But I think if you had asked Bill Gates, do you want to be the one to be CEO? Like, I think he was pretty happy when he got to step down from CEO and got to have a fun title and kind of do the wacky different stuff. And I think that happened at Google. And I think that happened, with Elon Musk. And I think that happens with a lot of our folks. And so maybe what we all need to do on this call is think about how to help our innovators create the business that's logical, where they get to do the part they're good at, and we get other people to do the things that they're good at. So TJ Cook at Activate MM and others have come up with the Co-Founders Fiesta, which is a new idea. It's happening later in May.
And it's a chance to bring innovators and entrepreneurs together with people who are kind of C-suite, fractional professionals, people who are looking for a startup. So that's another place where that could happen. The third thing, and Eric, you and I have chatted about this very briefly, but I think there's a lot more to do, is what's my business model if I have an idea where I could get some money, say licensing or royalties or a product placement or something else that might not be me starting a business. And so my commercialization approach, the pathway, looks very different. I still need to do market research. I still need to approve it. I probably need to get an alpha or beta. But could I then have a top 10 relationships where what I'm selling or what my equity is the relationship or the partnership for the other company to do this work? And so those are the three things that occur to me where I think we could probably do more to have more innovation in New Mexico, and where we could still count it on the scoreboard and we could still make some people some money and we could really do some good, but it's gonna look a little different than that stereotypical entrepreneurial narrative. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, no, I like those ideas. I mean, I think, again, the challenge is, especially in the biospace, having, for the inventor, i.e. the university faculty members, not to be involved is often challenging because they're the expert, right? I mean, they're probably the world expert or close to that on that technology, since they were able to, get a patent, right, on that material, right? So there's probably a few others, let alone in our ecosystem here, where you could say, okay, we're going to spin out a company, and we've got a chief scientific officer who is familiar enough with the science that you don't have to be the guy helping pitch, I'll put in quotes again, but pitch the company or go out and reach out to investors, because frankly, you're sort of the only guy that can, describe the science behind it, perhaps. Now, it would be great, if we could get there. I think probably in the bigger markets, that's not a problem, right? Because let's say Boston, because you can get those people, and I don't know that we have them.
So Eric, I know that is a problem. So I'm acknowledging that, but I have a different way to recast it. And here's what's going on in my head about this. Number one is my experience, my personal experience in an entrepreneurial environment is that a lot of people have a linear conception, right? I'm the innovator. I'm going to make this product. I'm going to get into market. I'm going to sell it, and I'm going to grow this thing. And I would prefer to think about things in a different geometry, more of a web, more of a interconnected marketplace. And when I think about that, two things occur to me. Number one is if that person is the expert, then maybe their responsibility is not to build in a linear fashion some sort of company. Maybe their responsibility is to bring around them other people, and their success or failure is, can I teach somebody else how to communicate this? Because even though they are the expert, Eric, and even though they're the ones and everyone wants to see the CEO before they write a check, my feeling is if I haven't built the scaffolding so that the entity can exist without me, I failed. And so if the entity is incumbent upon me, then it's ego and it's a weaker system. I should be able to be hit by the proverbial bus and the company just continues the next day, fine. So that's what occurs to me. The second thing is the challenge that we have around the lack of talent, or the conception around the lack of talent in Mexico. And I think COVID actually, as awful as it was, helped us there in two ways. One is I have met more COVID refugees coming into New Mexico that are incredibly talented, that I'm really excited to be part of New Mexico Angels and also to be part of our entrepreneurship community. The second thing is it's proven what some companies are doing with a virtual workspace or a fragmented marketplace. And so I believe that it is possible to have a fractional semi-retired C-suite, not everybody, but adding the talent you need in different formats, or outsourcing some stuff, or coming up with different ways of solving the labor problem. So that's how my conception of it. It's a little naive, it's a little pie in the sky, but I think helping us educate the folks who are coming into the entrepreneurial wave that there's other ways for them to win this game and navigate the space other than the hockey stick feels like we would get further.
Yeah, I like that. I just would say that, and then I'll let others speak because I don't want to dominate everything. The way you phrased it was, it sort of sounded like the entrepreneur, you said it sort of has to let go and let the company do it, which I absolutely agree. But I think there are many entrepreneurs that feel a little bit the other way around, that they get dragged into the company because the company kind of needs their expertise, right?
Only because they don't make they don't create their own structure.
Well, that's not up to the entrepreneur though. The company should be doing that, no? I'm saying the entrepreneur. I'm saying the inventor. Sorry, I'm saying
beers.
I'm saying
Eric,
the
let's go have
inventor.
beers, man. This will be fun.
I'm saying the inventor, Drew, not the. So if we're equating the inventor with the entrepreneur, right?
The inventor can just learn 2 letters. No, I can't make that meeting. You have to figure it out.
Yeah,
If
fair
you can't
enough.
figure it out, talk to me beforehand. I'll give you what you need. You go do it. Most of the time, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, Eric, and I'm really just kind of pushing buttons because it's fun.
Absolutely.
And because I think you're good. But if the innovator feels that they have to be at the meeting, I think it's shame on them for not having done the job of building up a team to do this work without them. So, but Eric, let's have beers and let's talk about this.
Absolutely. It needs a lot of beers.
Yeah, cool. Let's see what else.
Good.
Rick, Greg, or someone else want to jump in?
Drew, I have a question really quick. I agree with what you're saying. And I think, I mean, I've read a ton of books, and I think that's the format that Henry Ford used, what you just referenced, right? Where he just wasn't the expert in things. So he just hired the experts. So, I mean, he kind of just was the umbrella of pointing to the people that did what they did, what they needed to do for the company. But my question more is where you were talking in regards to, being able to get the money to be able to fund this and to go out to your family and friends and whatever. For me, as I've gone through my process, I've self-funded, and yes, it gets expensive, but I think the part that I've kind of had a hard time with is, how do you go to your mother, or how do you go to your uncle, or how do you go? I mean, most of the people that you're surrounded by don't know anything about this. And now you're asking them to put their money that they've been saving all this time to, for retirement or for whatever, to bet on you when you're not even sure. I mean, you've got the passion and you think this can work, but I mean, it's a huge risk. When if you go to an angel investor, they know what the risk is and they know what they're looking at, and they're in these positions because they have the money to be able to say, well, if I lose the 20,000 or whatever they're investing, I'm willing to take that. Where, mom or grandma, they know nothing about it, and it's like you're kind of putting their money, and then if you don't do a good job, now you've created maybe a bad relationship in your family because maybe they feel like you didn't do a good job and you didn't try your best and you didn't put those extra couple hours a day, and you're enjoying your vacation at Disneyland, and maybe that's what the money's being used for. So for me, I've not wanted to reach out to people, because it's just like, if right now it's my money, it's my risk, it's my idea, and if it works, then awesome, good for me. But if it doesn't, then it's on me too. It's going to be just my loss entirely.
Yeah, Sonia, thank you so much for your question. I think it's very real. Did you get a chance to introduce yourself earlier on, or do you want to type in?
No,
Okay.
I was having some issues getting.
Okay. Why don't you give it 10 seconds? You want to give an elevator pitch and really try to make it 10 seconds so everyone knows who you are?
Sure. My name is Sonia Gonzalez, and I am the inventor of a system called the Kelly Baby Bottle. I've been working on the innovation now for about 3 years, and I'm just getting ready now to try to launch my product. I've had a couple of opportunities to be able to pitch this to the Shark Tank, and I'm just now getting ready to just build my advisory team and just put my business out there right now. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, so put in your URL in there. So Sonia is also an award winner from NMSU, and that's how I got to meet her. And I think your question's very real, Sonia. So let me give a couple of really brief snippets. Number one is there's no question that going to an angel who is signing a piece of paper that says, basically, I'm wealthy enough to lose this money is very different than going to friends and family. There's no question about that. Although you did say something that made me smile because sometimes our angels don't exactly know the risks that they're signing up for. They just happen to have a little bit more disposable income than other people. So don't assume that the angel is smarter than other people in the room, okay? So that's number one. Number two is, I'm really torn about this. I believe, and I'm a white man of privilege, so I have other advantages that maybe some entrepreneurs don't. But if I really believe in what I'm doing, and I'm writing my own check, and I'm doing my own sweat, and I'm creating the blood on my fingernails, then I'm willing to go to my family and friends, at least those who can afford it, and say, this is what I'm doing. I want you to invest in me. And my other rule is, if you can't explain your business to your grandma or your grandpa, then you probably need to go back to the drawing board about your business. Because what I was taught in marketing is that you're doing PR at the 5th or 7th grade level in terms of language for people to understand it. And so you need to take the difficult concept and reduce it to the simple thing in 10 seconds. So it's the whole joke is it would have been shorter, but I didn't have enough time. Well, take the time. So you need to be brief. You need to be succinct. Everybody needs to understand it. And if you don't believe in your company enough to go to the family and say, I think I'm going to make it. This is not a bet. This is me working. Now, if your family can't afford to lose that money, I agree with you. It's probably not ethical. It's probably not just to ask them. And I think that's reasonable. And we face that at Meow Wolf. But I think if you believe in yourself and you believe in this product, then it's okay to ask of people. And you say, hey, look, I'm making you sign a document that says you could lose all this. So I want this to be okay. And if that's going to impact how you feel about me as a person, I would prefer you don't write a check. I think that's reasonable to say. But I'm going to work as ethically, as hard at this. And if it fails, it's not because I didn't want this to succeed. So that's how I answer that. And I have the luxury to answer it that way. And maybe it's different for others.
Right.
And if other people have other opinions, we can add that to the beer list.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Cool. I think we've got time for one more question. Who's got a good one?
Hey, Drew, it's Rick. I'll jump in.
Great.
What are some of the key numbers that you look for in a balance sheet to say this is viable? Are there certain, everyone knows EBITDA, but is it ARR? Is it, what are some specific things you're looking at to say this is a viable option for New Mexico Angels?
That's a totally reasonable question, Rick, but I'm going to be the unhelpful answer the question with a question. What I was taught in MBA, what are the 3 most important parts of a company when you're assessing a company?
You're asking me that?
I'm asking you just because you're on the bully pulpit with me and we're running out of time. So do you have a good answer? Do you have a first answer?
What would the capital be used for? What, how far are you from getting revenue for this company? And man, I don't know. Those are 2 things I can think of. What are you?
Yeah.
On the spot,
so, and I'm totally putting you on the spot, and you're being a great sport. So in my entrepreneurship class in MBA, which I think is an oxymoron anyway, there's this old shrivel up guy. He's the type of guy who would have been smoking in the classroom, if you can imagine him, He's like, hey, let me tell you how it was, right? And he's probably around when Henry Ford, when Sonia was mentioning Henry Ford here. So what he taught me is the 3 most important parts of a company: people, people, people. So a balance sheet is definitely important, and we should look at it and understand it. And obviously, the more it is in the black, the more it has equity instead of debt is better. But what I've learned, particularly in New Mexico, is I'm gonna back a team. I went to Meow Wolf because I wrote a check to them because these are 6 people who had been doing this thing for, at that time, 6 years. And not only had they gotten the failures out of the way, but they had worked for nothing. And now they were trying to work for something. And they also knew how to work with each other. They were a team, and they would finish each other's sentences. And so the deal was de-risked from that experience. And so Chris Zymek and Matthew Ennis have built robots who I mentioned before. You know, these are two folks who've done it before. Their team is an all-star team. They've got Stanford degrees up the wazoo there. Everyone in New Mexico isn't going to be that way, but does that give me more confidence to write a check? It does. So I think the biggest thing is having the entrepreneur personally be ethical and not mess up their credit too bad with their own decisions. I think that's important because I'm going to check. The other thing is that the balance sheet is as clean as possible. So don't do wonky things. One thing that I learned from Perry Bendixson at Rhodey is every time you do a one-off, you're creating a new story that's a branch in the tree. And so you get too many branches and you can't really see so well. So have as few stories as possible, keep things clean. And that's probably my answer to the balance sheet.
I appreciate
so thanks for that, Rick.
Yeah, thanks for that. And hope you don't mind. One quick last question.
Go, yeah.
How open is the Angels to working with other investors? Like, you know, whether you guys are a lead or a secondary, you know, for example, like the Mountain West Investment Group. Do you guys ever do deals with other investment companies? Is that something Angels do?
Constantly, yeah. So thank you for this question, Sue. I don't know Mountain West personally, but again, I'm new at this. You know, our partnership with Rockies Venture Club is imperative. I just talked this morning to a guy named Eli Velasquez. He's in Texas. He's focused on two things. One is Texas angel groups. And the second thing is communities of color. And because the money that's going to entrepreneurs of color is just disgustingly low. We've talked with Colorado, Texas, Arizona, California in the last week. And so we both want deals to show off to others if you would like to look at deals, and we want to take deals to other places. And so the last line of the slide that I'm showing is this SPV or special purpose vehicle. And we're very happy to help an entrepreneur that's got some momentum to help them aggregate smaller angel checks so that it's easier administratively for them. And we welcome partnerships. NMBio is a great partner for us. It's all going to take the whole ecosystem not being in silos, but the village to raise the child. And I believe in that. Everyone on my board at New Mexico Angels is believing that. So if you've got an idea, let's work together. Feel free to email me and drew@nmangels.com. Feel free to bring your ideas, share your knowledge with us, and let's really have more be more. I don't think it's pie in the sky. I think it's really achievable. In a small state, if we can't figure out how to work together, we should all pack our bags and go home.
Drew, greatly appreciate this, and we'll look forward to having you back. Just a quick update for the rest of the attendees. Our next event is going to be Monday, May 24th. We're doing this with the New Mexico Tech Council, and it is on non-dilutive funding. So again, look forward to seeing you then. The time will be different. This one's going to be at 11 a.m. instead of noon. And again, that's Monday, May 24th. And again, it's hard to give you a standing ovation, but some good clapping here. We appreciate it. Thanks again, everyone, for attending.
Thanks to all of you. This was fun. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for listening.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Hey guys, I didn't mean to take over the questioning.